Okay, this week's lesson is going to be on decimal place value and rounding decimals. And Monday, when you were at school, you should have gotten a hard copy of this paper and also this paper. So if you need to, just pause the video and get those out, please, if you don't have them out already. So this chart, these are also available in Schoology if you happen to lose these papers. This chart tells us what place value each number in a decimal represents. So if your decimal point is here, to the right side of the decimal, we have tenths, hundredths, 1,000ths, or just thousands. You don't have to say the one. 10,000ths, 100,000ths, and 1,000,000ths. And please notice that all of these have this THS ending. That tells us that it is on the right side of the decimal point. To the left of the decimal point, we have ones, tens, hundreds, 1,000s, 10,000s, 100,000s, and 1,000,000s. So these are our place values to the left of the decimal point. So please just keep this out to refer to during these notes and while you're doing your work for this week. Okay, so starting with decimal place value, we'll do rounding decimals on the back. How do you say 275 decimal point 438 in words? And it is not how I just said it. That's not how I should have read it. I want to write it using our proper place value words. So we have let's just worry about before the decimal. 275. So how do we say that in words? You should be saying or thinking 275. And then if you remember, the word we use when we get to the decimal point is and. And now we got to worry about what's on the right of our decimal, 438. So if you look at your place value chart, you should see we have 4 in the tenths place, 3 is in the hundredths place, and 8 is in the 1,000ths or thousandths place. So wherever our number ends on the right side is the place value we're going to use. So it ends here. So we're going to have 438. And again, we end in the thousandths. So we're going to have 438 thousandths. And please make sure you add this THS. If you don't, it's a completely different number. Okay, so now which digit is in and we're going to say which digit is in each of these places. Hundredths place. So that should be, 2 to the right. Sorry. Hard to see what I'm showing you here. Hundredths is 2 to the right of our decimal. So in this case, decimal 1, 2, it should be 3. For tens, we've got decimal and then 2 spaces to the left. So in this case, it would be 7. In the ones place, it should be the first number to the left of our decimal, which is 5 in this case. Thousandths, so we've got tenths, hundredths, thousandths, so third to the right of the decimal should be an 8. Tenths, we've got decimal point tenths, so our first one after our decimal point to the right of the decimal point should be a 4. And what is in the hundreds place? We should have 2. All right, the next example. How do you say 15.04 in words? And again, it's not how I just said it. You will probably have a question like this on your assignment and or assessment for this week, so please be sure that you are paying attention to this. And if you have any questions, don't be afraid to ask me. So left part of the decimal, let's worry about that first. We've got 15. When we get to the decimal point, we use the word and. And now we have 0, 4 after the decimal point. So where does our decimal, what place value does the right side, our decimal, end in? We should say 0, 4, so hundredths. So that's what we're going to use as our place value. And since this is a 0, we just say 15 and 4 hundredths. Now, go ahead and try to pause me and see if you guys can figure out what each of these should be. And then after you work that out, hit play and check to see if you got it right. So which digit is in the hundredths place? Tenths, hundredths, so we should have 4. What about the ones place? So decimal point ones, so it should be 5. And tens, decimal ones, tens, so decimal ones, tens, it should be 1. And tenths place, decimal tenths, so it should be 0. Okay, on the back. And I should have said this at the beginning, but I just now remembered. Make sure that as you're going through these notes, watching the video, and you have this paper in front of you, that you are writing everything I'm writing in this blue ink. These are the notes you should be taking, okay? All right, on the back. So now we're going to talk about rounding decimals. So if we round to the tenths, which again is the first place to the right after the decimal point, if we round to the tenth, that means to leave 1 number after the decimal point. So it would just be the tenths number. If we round to the hundredths, so that's 1, 2, that means we're going to leave 2 numbers after the decimal point. If we round to the thousandths, we're going to leave 1, 2, 3 numbers after the decimal point, and so on. So, that being said, if we want to round 3 and 1,416 10,000ths to the hundredths, okay? So count over, let's see, we're gonna start by underlining which number we're gonna end with. So if we round to the hundredths, how many numbers do we need to keep to the right of our decimal point? 1, 2. So we're going to keep up to this point, and that's what we're rounding. So with rounding, we have to look at the very next number. If it is 4 and under, we keep this the same. If it is 5 or above, we take this up 1. So is 1 4 and under or 5 and above? It's 4 and under. So this 4 is going to stay the same. So our answer would just be 3 and 14 hundredths. Now we're going to take that same number we just used, 3 and 1,416 10,000ths, and round it to the nearest thousandths. So we've got tenths, hundredths, thousandths. So we need 3 numbers to the right of the decimal point. So this is where our number is going to end. We have to look here to know how to round. Is 6 4 and below or 5 and above? Well, it's 5 and above. So this number, our thousandths, has to go up 1. So our answer would be 3 and 142 thousandths. All right, 1 and 2,735 10,000ths rounded to the tenths, nearest tenths place is, so our tenths place is just that first decimal place after the decimal. So we're only going to keep 1 number after the decimal point. You can kind of ignore the 3 and the 5. We just need to look here at our 7 to know how to round. Is 7 5 and above or 4 and below? Well, it's 5 and above. So we got to move this one up 1. So we're going to have 1 and 3 tenths because we're rounding to the tenths place, and the tenths is the first one after the decimal point. Okay, 12 and 78 hundredths rounded to the nearest tenth is, so again, nearest tenth is going to be that first decimal point, the first decimal place value after the decimal. So that's going to be, we're going to round here. So we need to look at our 8. Does 8 tell us to round up or to round down? Is it 5 and above or 4 and below? It's 5 and above, so we're going to round up. So we've got 12 and 8 tenths. And last one, round 3 and 8,439 10,000ths to the nearest hundredth. So if we look, tenths, hundredths. So we are rounding our second number after the decimal point. Now to decide how we're going to round, we have to look at the number after our tenths, which would be a 3 in this case. Does 3 tell us to round down or up? Well, it's 4 and below, so it tells us to round down or keep the same. So our answer would be 3 and 84 hundredths. Okay, so that's the end of the notes. Please keep these out as you're working this week. You have practice questions you have to do. You should write them on a separate sheet of paper and then take a picture of that paper and turn it into the assignment. And then you'll also have an assessment to do. So 2 things. You need to do your assignment, take picture and turn in, and then there will also be an assessment. And then I also have additional resources. If you just kind of watched this video and thought, well, kind of get it, kind of don't, I could use some more help. Check out the additional resources that are in this week's folder on Schoology for extra practice, and please, as always, email me or call me at the school if you have any questions. Okay, you can email me through Schoology or LiveGrades or on my email, or call me, meet with me on Teams on Wednesday. Whatever help you need, please let me know. Thank you.